They say every town has its secrets, but Silverpine holds something darker. Beneath its moonlit fog, the dead speak, and the living hear them. Welcome to Tales from Silverpine Cemetery, where every grave has a story. In the quiet town of Silverpine, a fog hangs heavy over the old graveyard. Beneath moonlit skies, the dead whisper their darkest secrets. Each of the following stories is a first-person account or narrated flashback, blending immersive horror and emotional drama to keep you on edge. The candles flicker, the gates creak. Listen closely and do not blink as the restless souls of Silverpine Cemetery begin to speak. Under the pale moonlight, Silverpine Cemetery stretches ahead, an endless sea of marble angels, weathered crosses and leaning headstones. A lone lamplight flickers in the distance. This is a place where nothing stays buried forever. Tonight, you will hear 5.5 stories of those who haunt these stones.
I've watched over this cemetery for 42 years. People think it's the cold wind or shifting shadows that unsettled them. But I know better. Some nights the dead don't sleep. The job of Gravekeeper was lonely work, but I expected that. For 15 years I've walked these moonlit paths alone, satisfied with the silence and the routine. I light candles on freshly dug graves, polish weathered crosses, and guide the occasional lost mourner. That night, as rain threatened, the wind picked up, and I huddled into my coat. It was around midnight when I first noticed the old lantern swinging by itself. I whisper into my recorder, voice trembling. The light bobbed as I passed the ancient crypt at the cemetery's heart. Metal gates creaked in the wind, and I spun around, heart pounding. A murder of crows had settled atop the tombstones, their eyes like tiny coals in the dark. They stared at me in silence. I forced a weak laugh, wondering if I was already losing my mind. Crunch. Gravel shifted behind me. I thought I heard footsteps on the path, slow and scraping. But when I turned, there was nothing but shadow. Yet the lantern's glow continued to bob wildly, illuminating gravestones I'd never noticed before. One of them larger, freshly dug, with no name carved on its slab. Why would there be a new grave here, with no family to bury it? I took a hesitant step toward it. "Hello?" I called softly, but my voice was swallowed by the heavy silence. The air turned icy, my breath fogged in front of me. A distant owl cooed mournfully. The lantern's light trembled. In that moment, a faint whisper drifted on the wind. "Go away." The single word echoed between the trees, slowing my pulse to a crawl. I shook my head violently, dismissing the sound. I must be dreaming, I told myself. Get a grip, I muttered under my breath. But I didn't feel tired, and the lantern flickered faster, as if in distress. I heard it again, clearer this time. "Leave now." The whisper came from right behind the new grave. I stepped back, terror melting my knees. There, at the lip of the crypt, a pale hand emerged from the earth. Its fingers were limp and colorless as rotting parchment. My breath caught. The crows above screeched and flapped their wings, snapping me back. The sky thickened, clouds rolled over the moon, and panic clawed at my throat. I stumbled away, swearing loudly. The lantern sputtered against a sudden gust. Shadows stretched across the gravestones, and then converged. From the gloom stepped a figure, an old woman, draped in tattered funeral cloths. Her eyes glowed with feverish grief and anger. Her skin was ghostly pale, her hair silver and matted. "This is our home, boy," she rasped, voice cracking like old wood. I recognized the accent of one long dead. I froze. The lantern slipped from my grasp, clattering to the ground and extinguishing. Darkness swallowed me. Cold dread seized my heart. Her bony hand reached out, nails dragging through the empty air where my chest once was. I screamed, a raw, desperate sound, and the specter answered with a wail more chilling than death itself. Gravel and bone seemed to crunch together, and in that instant I realized the grave had opened fully. The pale hand I saw belonged to other bodies too. Skeletons began to crawl up from the dirt, dozens of them, each draped in loose burial cloths, dragging themselves out of their shallow holes. The smell of damp earth and decay filled my nose. The old woman's pierced the night, echoing off every stone. Terrified beyond reason, I dropped everything and ran for the gate. My shoes crunched on gravel. Footsteps frantic in the moonless dark. By dawn, 2 heads turned in the cemetery churchyard. I was huddled by the crypt entrance, eyes wide and hollow, rocking back and forth. The grave where the dead had crawled out lay shut and neat as if untouched, with fresh sod smooth above it. The lantern lay snapped in two. I was never the same after that night. By day I continue my duties, but after dark I live in the chapel, praying for forgiveness. Even now, when the wind rattles the old gates, I hear her voice in the breeze. Remember us.
She said she'd never leave me. Even when they lowered her casket into the dirt, I still felt her, breathing next to me. The first night I lit a candle for her, I heard her whisper. The old iron gate clanged open by itself, and a sour wind blew out the candles I was lighting. I shiver and look around the deserted cemetery. It is early December, All Souls' Day, and I've come here every year for half a decade. I light these candles for you, I whisper, kneeling at the stone. The air is thick with incense and frost. The headstone reads, Sarah Wells, beloved sister. Sarah was my twin and my best friend. She wore the white wedding dress I never saw. She waited for me at the altar, but I never made it on our wedding day. I lit 6 candles, 3 on each side of the grave, forming a glowing heart shape on the ground. Each flame flickers, casting trembling faces on the carved stone angel above her name. Cold breath forms clouds in front of me. The cemetery is silent except for my hushed prayers and the distant peal of church bells. Memories wash over me. Sarah's laughter on the morning of the wedding, helping her lace her dress, her hand warm on my shoulder. We promised everything for each other. How does one forget a bond like that? Tonight, under the canopy of stars, I reach up to wipe away a tear on the nameplate. I'm so sorry you were alone, I think. They say now you're not here, but I feel you in every cold breeze. Snap! 1 candle guttered and went out, leaving a pool of melted wax on the ground. My heart skipped. I looked around, nervous. The wind tugged at my scarf. The minute hand of the clock at the chapel struck 12. A soft rustling came from the patch of grass by the headstone. In the frozen ground, something stirred. The earth trembled faintly. I gasped and stepped back. In the shallow grave next to hers, the soil slipped aside, revealing a delicate white satin heel buried half in the dirt. I dropped the lantern and fell to my knees. Miriam. The voice was a whisper on the cold air. My fingers froze on the shoe as warm tears escaped. I look up. Through the gap in the graveside earth, I see something push upward. Sarah's arm, smooth and translucent, emerges, her gauzy wedding gown rising from beneath the snow-dusted ground. Sarah? My voice cracks. Her arm retreats briefly, then she pulls herself higher. With a soft creak, the rest of the coffin lid snaps open. A pale hand clasps the edge. Her face, streaked with soot and tears, breaks the surface, eyes wide with recognition, dark curls plastered to her forehead. I stood and watched, heart pounding as one hand traced the air. Miriam, she breathed. voice as gentle as summer rain. She was exactly as I remembered. Small, beautiful, caught in time in that satin gown. Tears rushed down my cheeks. I couldn't stop them. I reached out and touched her hand. At first it was icy air, then warmth like a spring breeze bloomed in my palm. "I'm so sorry I couldn't save you, Sarah," I sobbed. "I should have been there." My knees buckled. Sarah's voice was calm, the one I'd known all my life. "You kept your promise," she said softly. "You never forgot me." She pulled herself fully up from the grave, her feet now resting on the earth. Leaves rustled under her wedding shoes. In a shaky whisper, I said, "I come every year, even on my wedding day. I come for you." My hand shook as I traced her cheek with a trembling fingertip. The carved angel above us seemed to smile down. She let out a small, serene laugh. "You think you're coming here for me," Sarah said. "But I came back for you." The silence that followed was filled with all the things left unsaid in life. Then, as if on cue, the 6 candles lit themselves again, casting a warm glow on the pair of us. Sarah took my hands and pulled me up to stand. The cold night air felt suddenly warm around her. She leaned close and pressed her cheek to mine. We stood together, twin souls reunited, sharing the quiet of the graveyard under the stars, until the morning light crept through the trees. When I finally opened my eyes and she was gone, I saw all my candles still burning brightly. It was as if she never needed me to tend them. By dawn, all that remained were 6 little pools of wax and the promise I had kept. The only footprints leading away were mine, heading back home with a heart full of love and a thermos of hot tea in hand.
My little brother and I used to race through Silverpine like we owned it. He always stopped by that crooked elm near the edge. Said the angel statue cried at night. I wish I had listened. The crocuses had bloomed by my father's grave this spring, as if nature herself was watching. I stepped into Silverpine Cemetery on a pale morning, expecting cold stones and empty air. Instead, at my feet lay a small bouquet of purple crocuses, placed carefully against the granite. My breath caught. I'm Tommy, and those were the very flowers David, my little brother, loved picking in the fields. David was 8 and full of life when he slipped into Silverpine Lake last summer. It was my dare that sent him there. I never meant for him to drown. I lost him, and I lost myself with him. Every day since, I've hidden under this elm tree, wrapped in guilt. But today was different. Today, I found his flowers here, and my father's grave beneath them. Dad always looked after us, I thought. Why would David leave these for him? A chill wind stirred. I wrapped my jacket tighter and knelt by the gravestone. It read, "To Dad and brothers, forever in our hearts." I traced each engraved letter with a trembling finger. "I'm so sorry, David," I whispered. "I'm coming, I promise." A soft breeze rustled the grass behind me. I spun around, and there he was. A small boy, no more than 8, in a soaked shirt and muddy pants. Brown curls matted on his forehead. But what truly froze me was his eyes. Sad, endless eyes, just like mine. He couldn't be alive. The search party had given up weeks ago. But there he was, right in front of me. "Tommy?" I gasped. He smiled sadly, holding the bouquet behind his back. A lump formed in my throat. Dave? My voice cracked. He nodded. He looked just like in life. I couldn't speak. My knees went weak. Before I fell, he reached out and caught me. His hand was ice cold. He gestured upward to the elm tree, to the exact spot he had drowned. Beneath it was a tiny mound of earth, carefully made. On top lay his mini coffin, buried under a layer of wild crocuses like a crown. David kneeled beside me, placing the flowers gently at my father's stone. Dad took care of me, he said. He told me you did everything for me. But I didn't! It was my fault. My eyes burned. Shh, he said. It wasn't your fault, Tommy. He smiled sadly. Dave, I said, wiping my nose on my sleeve. Why are you here? He pointed at the tiny coffin. I had to stay under there for a while, he said, but I was lonely, so I came back. Then I did this. He tapped the tiny coffin again. I wanted you to find me sooner. As he spoke, a distant church bell tolled. The crocuses around Dad's stone glowed in the morning light. David, I said, please, don't be lonely. He gave me a sad smile. I like being here with you, he said. He stood up slowly and turned toward the open ground at the base of the elm. Suddenly, his legs disappeared into the earth, and I heard him call from below. I'm not afraid, Tommy. Come down and play with me. I'm waiting. Terror shot through me. I screamed and bolted out of the cemetery. Later, when I reached home, I crept back quietly at dawn. The flowers at Dad's grave were gone, taken by no one, leaving only memories. Years later, I've kept my promise. Every morning, I leave fresh crocuses at that grave. They never wilt, no matter the season. In my dreams, David is finally at peace, and I have learned that guilt can grow into a promise of love that endures beyond the grave.
We came here with a recorder, not a crucifix. First, the static. Then, the voice. Get out! The doors had no hinges, and yet, they shut behind us. The old vault in Silverpine's graveyard was said to hold restless dead. My colleague and I were determined to uncover the truth. We believe it's just superstition, I told the handheld camera in a hushed tone. The floodlight illuminated our anxious faces as we crouched by the cracked stone tomb. We had snuck in to film a late-night special on the paranormal. This vault reportedly collapsed years ago, my cameraman whispered. We started to dig, eagerly watch. We began shoveling loose earth, the frost crunching under our boots. The shovel struck something hard. We gasped. The wooden lid of a coffin. Suddenly, the coffin lid splintered. The ground beneath us trembled. A cloud of dust puffed into the air as soil cascaded into the vault. Did you see that? I choked, backing away. Below, amid the dirt, something shifted. I dropped the microphone. Our floodlight shook. Then we saw it, a skeletal hand, pale and bony, rising from the darkness of the tomb. I started to screaming. Run! My cameraman yelled. We bolted, stumbling over headstones. Behind us, more scratching and popping noises filled the night. One by one, skeletons began to emerge from the ground. An old Civil War officer, a nun in tattered habit, an infant clutching a rag, their grins fixed in death. They spilled out into the graveyard, stepping onto the grass under the floodlight. They were silent, expressionless, but their empty eyes seemed to see us. My heart pounded as we fled. In the rearview mirror, we saw dozens of skeletons lingering among the stones, but none followed our car. The next morning, our video became the talk of Silverpine, except for one detail. All cameras had captured was us digging and running. Where the bodies appeared, the film froze to static. The rubble and opened grave vanished as if by magic. Scientists claimed it was a prank, or adrenaline making us hallucinate. Locals say we disturbed the dead and paid the price. I never returned to Silverpine, but sometimes, late at night, I think I can still hear faint scraping, as if the dead are still trying to claw their way out.
They buried her in white. She was supposed to wear that dress walking down the aisle, not into the ground. Every year, on their wedding date, she walks the graveyard path, alone. She wears a white dress that never aged. My name is Grace. 5 years ago, I died at 22 on my wedding night. Tonight, as the church bell tolls 12, I wander these graves, searching for what was stolen. The mist parts, and I see a fresh mound of earth near the chapel. A name glints on the stone, in lantern light. Martin Whitby, beloved. Martin was my groom. We were to be married today. They never found my body in the lake. From the shadows steps Daniel, his lantern swinging. My body remembers what his eyes knew at that moment. It was he who had pushed my Martin into the water out of jealous rage. I approach silently. The light paints his face, pale with dread. He doesn't turn as I call, "Daniel." He drops the lantern, glass shattering. I stride closer. "You should be dead," I whisper, voice echoing in my own ears. He whirls. "Who?" His voice shakes. "Grace," I say. I lift my veil and let it fall. "Your sister. Your bride." He pales. "It's true," he mutters. "I meant to hurt you, Grace. But the water," he chokes. "I was jealous. Martin loved you and I." Moonlight falls on me. I'm glowing in white, and my tears drip to stone. Daniel sinks to his knees. He grabs at the dirt. "Please," he sobs. "I buried you here. I'm sorry." A ghost of a tear from me drifts to his cheek. I reach down and lift him gently by the collar. His eyes are too small, too broken. "Your brother loved me," I whisper. "We were to start a life together, but he never came back." He shudders. His face goes pale. "I know," he whispers. "The truth is a razor." From behind I hear a splashing sound, water. My veil lifts as another tomb cracks open. A drowning man's arm reaches out, then a face. Martin's pale blue eyes stare into Daniel's. Martin climbs out of the earth beside us. He stands draped in water, shaking off the lake's last remains.
"My Grace," he whispers. His voice is distant but clear.
Daniel screams. He tries to scramble away, but Martin places a steady hand on his shoulder. "Your brother deserves peace," Martin says softly. "No!" Daniel cries. I step between them, gentle but resolute. Martin holds my hand. "I've waited so long," he says, voice trembling. I look into Martin's eyes. The memories of our wedding day come crashing back. "That night will never end," I breathe. gripping Daniel's trembling hand in mine. "I'll never let it." He bows his head, weeping. We watch the sunrise together. The fresh grave behind us is empty and open now. Only one thing remains on the mound, a single white rose. I feel Martin's hand in mine. For the first time in years, the cold grip on my heart loosens. When the dawn breaks, Daniel prays alone. I disappear into the morning light, Martin by my side, at peace at last.
I never believed in spirits. Not until I saw the angel statue cry. First just water, maybe rain, I thought. Then blood, thick, red, and then it smiled. We end with the tale of the weeping statue. On my last night in Silverpine, I dared to test the cemetery legends. I'm Marisol, an art student. I don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe in beauty. And I knew the white marble angel statue there was hauntingly beautiful. Under a cracked moon, I sneak into the cemetery with my camera. The angel stands by a stone bench, head bowed, stone tears on her face. Even in daylight, she seemed alive. Tonight, she glimmers in moonlight, wings spread wide as if to embrace the earth. I set up a tripod and begin filming. Minutes pass. Midnight comes and goes. My eyes grow heavy. Suddenly, a glint. I blink. The angel's eyes seem wet. On her cheek, a drop of liquid forms. My heart lurches. I stand and step closer. It's like a real tear. The marble under her eyes stains brown. Something moves. The tear falls like mercury onto the tomb below. As I gasp, I feel a warm presence behind me. I whirl around. A pale woman stands at the chapel gate, cradling an infant in her arms. She sobs quietly, rocking back and forth. A funeral in reverse. Pallbearers emerge from the ground carrying the closed coffin, then vanish into shadows. The angel's lips part. A whisper fills the air. My son. The voice is soft but sorrowful. I stay frozen, listening. More tears stream down the angel's face, not muddy, but crimson. A child's cry echoes. "Mama!" I spin again. The woman is gone. I look back at the statue. Her stone eyes glisten with tears. I back away slowly, leaving the camera to capture the weeping. By dawn, I fled Silverpine. Later, safe in sunlight, I review the tape. The tears on the angel's face show up clearly, drop after drop. And if you look closely, a blurred figure of a woman and baby passing behind her. I erase that part of the tape. Now, whenever I walk past the cemetery gate, I feel those sad marble eyes watching me. At night, I sometimes hear a baby's lullaby on the wind. I know sorrow in its purest form, engraved forever in stone and tears.
They never truly leave us. You've heard the stories of Silverpine's restless souls. The lamplight is dimming, the fog is rising, and the cemetery lies silent once more. For now. Listen closely to the wind through the pines, and watch the headstones in the moonlight. On foggy nights, the dead may whisper your name. If your heart's pounding even a little, you're not alone. Go ahead, hit like so we know you're still with us. And if you've made it this far, subscribe, because the next tale is darker than the last.